Maybe you've heard me say, confidence is a choice. It's something I say often, but what does that really mean, especially for your English? Because, yes, of course, confidence can be a feeling. I'm sure you've had moments when you felt confident, like sharing your expertise at work, maybe making a tough decision, or chatting with neighbors and friends at a party. We all have moments when we feel like, I've got this. But if you are confident, do you then always feel confident? Like when everything you planned changes, or when you're giving your first big presentation in English, doing a job interview in English. If you feel nervous in those moments, does it mean that you're not confident? Not at all. In those moments, confidence isn't a feeling, it's a decision. A decision to rely on what you know, to trust the strategies you've built, or recognize where you need the support to grow stronger next time. I want you to write this next thought down. Confidence is the choice you make, the action you take, no matter how you feel in the moment. And that's the skill we're going to figure out how to build today for your English. To start, I want to dig into this a little further. English confidence is not always about feeling calm, ready, or sure of yourself. In fact, if you wait to feel 100% confident before you speak, you might be waiting for a very long time. Again, real confidence isn't about how you feel in the moment. It's about what you do, especially when you feel uncertain. It's the action you take when your heart is pounding. It's the strategy you use to speak when your anxiety makes your brain want to freeze. It's the moment when you try, even if it's messy or scary, because you've trained for this. Now, of course, that doesn't mean that you just ignore your nerves. It means you don't let them be the boss. When I talk about English fluency with my students, I say that it's about speaking in a way that is clear and smooth, with you in control. And that's exactly what I mean by this. You have the control, not your anxiety. The truth is, confidence is built on evidence, not just some belief or positive thinking. It's the evidence you get when you've practiced, when you've shown up for yourself and for your goals consistently, or when you've recovered after a hard or awkward conversation. That's the foundation you stand on. So I've got a question for you. What's one moment in the past month when you took action, even though you felt nervous? That's what confidence looks like. That's where it starts. Now, to keep that confidence going, I want to challenge you to rethink nervousness. Instead of thinking that nerves means something is wrong, I want you to try this. Feeling nervous doesn't mean that I'm unprepared. It doesn't mean that I'm weak or that I've failed. And it definitely doesn't mean I'm not confident. Nervousness means you're human. And when it shows up, it usually means that this moment matters. Like a presentation at work, a conversation with someone important, or an interview for a job you really want. Your nerves in those moments are data. They're a signal saying, hey, pay attention. This is a challenge worth preparing for. But here's the mistake we often make, myself included. We think that we have to get rid of all of our nerves before we can perform. But confident speakers don't wait for comfort. They listen to their nerves. They use them as fuel. And then they prepare with intention instead of shutting down or giving up. So before we move on today, I want you to take a moment and focus on this. Confidence isn't the absence of nervousness. It's the ability to read your nerves and respond with a plan. Now, here's a question I hear all the time. I know English, I understand it. So why do I still freeze when I have to speak? There are usually two reasons, and it's important to know which one you're dealing with. Reason number one is it's a pressure problem. You do have the vocabulary. You know how to express your ideas. But when the moment comes, you feel rushed. You may be afraid of judgment. So your brain locks up, it goes blank. This isn't a language issue. it's a pressure issue, and it needs a different kind of practice. You have to learn how to function under stress, not just when you're comfortable and alone. We're going to talk more about that in a moment, but first I want to talk about reason number 2 is a practice gap. Sometimes the nerves you have are pointing to something different. The fact that you haven't practiced enough yet. Maybe you just haven't had the opportunity. Or maybe you've practiced passively with reading, listening, and reviewing, but you haven't used what you've learned. You haven't used the language in real time where mistakes happen, and that matters. Because confidence without preparation, that's not confidence, that's gambling. And I don't know about you, but when something is important to me, I want to minimize my risks. I want to prepare with intention. But preparation without practicing under pressure doesn't transfer to real life. If you don't prepare for real life situations, you can't use what you know when it counts. You have to practice in situations that increase the anxiety just a little bit, situations that help you learn to be in control step by step. So pause for a moment and ask yourself, am I freezing because I'm overwhelmed and feeling pressured in the moment? Or because I haven't really trained for this kind of moment? This question isn't about judging yourself or feeling bad. It's about clarity, because clarity gives you a way to move forward. I want to briefly revisit this truth that we keep talking about. Confidence isn't something that you're born with, and it's not something that you just decide to have one day. It's something you build, just like a skill. And here's how to do it in 3 steps. Number 1, practice with purpose, not just repetition. Now, don't get me wrong. Repetition is super important. I talk about it a lot. It builds your memory and the ability to do something automatically. But you don't build confidence by reviewing vocabulary on repeat alone. You build it by using what you're learning out loud in real situations. So that might look like practicing the exact kind of questions that you're getting right now in your English meetings, or rehearsing answers to real job interview questions, sharing what you think about topics like aging and the pros and cons of AI. The practice of repetition builds your memory, but purposeful, real world practice builds fluency, and both are necessary. The second way to build confidence is to train for real life, not for perfection. Most people only practice when they feel safe and calm. I did that for a long time too, and it's exactly why I felt absolute panic when I moved to France after spending years studying. I spent all that time studying where it felt safe, like with just myself or with my teacher one-on-one. But real life speaking moments happen with multiple people, not just a one-on-one teacher. And they happen where it's loud and you have to speak louder. They happen where it's quiet and everyone hears you. They happen when you feel rushed and you have to think fast. So you have to practice in moments that are similar, even just a little. So this might look like practicing with a timer where there's pressure, or joining a small group conversation. And it might mean saying something even when you're not sure whether it's perfect or not. Confidence in those moments does not mean that your heart won't race. It means that you've trained your brain to respond anyway. And the third way to build up your confidence is to reflect and adjust instead of just moving on to the next thing. After any conversation or public speaking in English, I want you to pause and ask yourself 3 questions. What went well? What did I express well? What felt awkward or unclear? And what would I do differently next time? This is where growth happens. Confidence builds when you notice your wins and you learn from your weak spots, not by ignoring them, not by repeating the same habits. So I've got a small challenge for you. I want you to choose one situation you avoid in English right now. Ask yourself, what is one small way I could prepare for that moment this week? This is your next step in building real English confidence. Once you start to put this system of building confidence into place, you start to have moments in real life when you choose to act with confidence. These are the moments that matter, like speaking up in a meeting, doing the job interview, saying hello to your neighbor for the very first time in English, or responding to an unexpected question. When that moment happens, the question is, now what? And the answer? Don't wait to feel confident. Instead, act as someone who is prepared, because you are. In that moment, when you feel that anxiety, it might look like slowing down your speech instead of rushing to hide your nerves, or using simple, clear words instead of searching for the perfect ones. It might be asking a clarifying question instead of pretending you understood, or owning your pause instead of apologizing for it. When you put this system into place, moments like this become what you've trained for. So then you choose to go forward, even if your voice shakes and your heart pounds. As we get closer to the final part of this lesson, I want you to remember this. Confidence doesn't always feel good in the moment. In fact, that feel-good confidence often comes later. Instead, it more often feels like courage, or sometimes it feels like tension. But when you've practiced, when you've prepared, when you've shown up in real life situations, that is confidence in action. So now, if you've ever thought, I know English, so why don't I feel confident speaking it? This is your answer. And if building English confidence like this is something that you would love to do with me and my team, with structure, strategy, and support, I'd love for you to check out Fluency School, because this is what we do. In Fluency School, you practice in real conversations, not just repeated exercises. You learn to manage and control nerves and self-doubt in the moment. You build a system of preparation and reflection that creates real lasting change. If you've been trying to do all of this alone and it's not working the way you want, you don't have to stay stuck. If you want to get more details about the Fluency School program, be sure to visit speakconfidentenglish.com/fluency school. I'll include a direct link in the episode notes below. To end for today, I want to ask you this. What is one moment where you want to show up with more confidence in English? Is it in a meeting at work, in an upcoming interview, or a personal conversation? Take a moment to tell me in the comments. Thank you so much for joining me today. And if this helped you, don't forget to follow or subscribe wherever you're listening or watching today, or share it with someone you care about who needs to hear this. Thank you again, and I look forward to next time.